Okay, before I get too far on, I have to mention about the cost and whether or not things were going to be covered by my health insurance. So as it turns out, I was in the hospital, like I said, for about 4 or 5 days. Got home. Within the week, I got a bill from the brain surgeons for $345,000. A week later, I got another bill from the brain surgeons for $145,000. And I got information from my insurance company saying that their claim has been denied because they were out of network. Now, interesting and mildly technical thing to point out here that I live in New York, in the state of New York. If you have private health insurance, um, if you go to the emergency room, they have to cover everything as a result of that. Turns out, because I had federal health insurance that was provided through my employer at the time, I was employed by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, as an air traffic controller, and I had a federal employee program insurance that did not work the same way. In fact, they did not, if you were out of network, which, these brain surgeons were, they they didn't deal with them directly. They would pay anything directly to me, and I had to file an appeal. I had to file an appeal with the insurance company, asking them to, reconsider. And what they did is eventually they did, reconsider, and they sent me a check for somewhere around $55,000. So I called up the insurance company and I said, "Hey, what do I do with this? What do I do with this?" And they said, "Well, before you hand over this money to the brain surgeon, company, and it was a company, it wasn't just, guy working as a brain surgeon. He worked probably for a private equity firm. And they said, before you give this money to them, make sure that they agree that they will accept this as payment in full. Because the original bill came to almost to $500,000, and all I had was a check for around $55,000. So I called up the brain surgeon company, and I said, "Hey, will you accept this as payment in full?" And they said, "Nope, nope, no, we're not going to do that. In fact, we're going to keep badgering your insurance company until they pay up completely." And so I was like, "Oh, wow." I said, "Well, look, my insurance company advised me not to pay this until you agree to that." And they said, "So you're not going to give us the money?" I said, "No." A week later, I got a letter from a lawyer, demanding that I pay the money, otherwise they're going to take me to court and cause all kind of problems. And I'm thinking, wow, this was totally opposite of "Don't worry, it was an emergency, it'll be covered in full." That was clearly a lie. And now here I am coming home from the hospital, recovering from surgery, recovering from a seizure, and not having any idea what's going on here. And eventually, they my brother, who is a lawyer, spoke to them, not as a lawyer, but just as my brother, and said, "Hey, this is what's going on." So I did appeal. I appealed that decision. I appealed the first decision. I appealed that decision. And eventually the insurance company agreed to pony up an additional, whatever, $40,000. And I think it was like $92,000 now. And my brother, negotiated, with that company to accept that as payment in full. And eventually that's what happened. I deposited both checks to my own account. I had a bank check made out to the brain surgeon company. And, and that, that was the end of that. But, something important to remember is that, um, when somebody says, you're just going to be covered in full. And unless you get that in writing, that doesn't count. Verbal, agreements don't count for anything in this country. I think they do in some other countries, but not in this country. So kind of watch out for that. If you have people, if you have, doctors telling you, "Hey, I'm recommending this, this is, the standard of care." That may not be true. If somebody tells you, "Yeah, your insurance company will definitely cover this," that's not always going to be true. So, kind of watch out for that kind of stuff.